Hi, and welcome to my summary of learning for ECI832. I'm Kirsten Hansen, and I'll be your tour guide. So, what happens when we are filtered through a computer, or through a device like a phone, and then filtered through the internet? And what about everything we consume, all the things we view or read or hear, that are also filtered that way? Does the digital world change things? Well, the short answer would be yes. Yes, it does. In our course, we started talking about the fact that the medium is the message. So, choosing to present ourselves, or not, or our work, or not, digitally, is as much a message as the actual content. And how we choose to present it can actually change the content itself. Think about our identity. When the internet first really got going, there was a concept that your digital identity was just digital. It really didn't have any impact on anything else. It just impacted who you were online and how people knew you that way. So it didn't matter if you wanted to pretend you were a cat. You were digital, or you were IRL. You were in real life, face to face, in person, in the flesh. And that was the only identity that really mattered. But now, people like Jason Oler are pointing out that in reality, there's only one identity. This is especially true when we're talking about our students and the people who are younger and more familiar with being digital. And speaking of that, different people have a very different comfort and knowledge of the internet. Historically, there were digital natives, and they were the people who grew up with the internet. And everyone else was considered to be a digital immigrant. They weren't as familiar, and they had to learn everything rather than it being just kind of seemingly innate. Well, David White disagrees with that concept, and he presented us with something more interesting and more realistic. He suggested that what we actually have is a continuum with 4 points of axis. You might be a digital resident, which means that you're really familiar and comfortable, and you're probably almost a super user. You don't mind sharing things on the internet, and you know how to get things done. But you could also be a digital visitor, which means you're a little less comfortable, you're not as familiar, and you maybe want to stay inside your box and not share everything. And that's okay too, and you might feel differently in different situations. For example, your personal life, you might feel one way. Your professional life, you might be much more likely to share, or even less likely to share. It all depends on your context, and it's totally okay to find yourself in different spots. With the magic of the internet, now we are exposed to all sorts of things like remixing, memes, and various ways of expressing ourselves, and then sharing what we have chosen to make and think and know. And that's really important, the sharing part, because learning is a social activity. And the internet has suddenly made this more possible than ever. We and our students are part of networks, and we can connect with people around that world. And every network is slightly different, so we need to understand how the networks operate. Moreover, students now need to have different tools. They need to be creative. And they're going to need different tools to be creative and to get their work done and to be employed in the future. So we need to start preparing them for that now. Regardless of how we teach, where we teach, we need to give them different tools. They need to be able to have technical knowledge to create things like remixes, videos, web pages, blogs. They need to know how to share. They also need to be able to work with others collaboratively. They need to be able to engage in projects with other people and know how to make that work. They need information literacy. Not just going to a library, but they need to know how to evaluate, communicate, and find the information that they're looking for. They also need to have cross-cultural approaches. They need to know how to deal with people in different cultures, and also to produce material that will make sense across cultural boundaries. The internet isn't just great, though. It's not just magical Candyland, it's also kind of messy. We talked about legal issues and ethical issues in this course, and the fact that many of them are much more prevalent than they ever would have been before. The internet made all sorts of things easy. Copyright is one of the big things. What does it mean to have copyright, and how has copyright changed? We need to be aware of what it means, but also what it should be. Sexting, what does it mean to share? How easy is it? Information, should it be free? Should it be locked? What do we do with it? And cyberbullying became one of the big issues, and it's definitely an important one that we all need to think about. Just ask Justine Sacco, who made one tweet right before getting on a plane, and suddenly, upon landing, discovered that the internet hated her. She had lost her job. And then, how about people like Monica Lewinsky, one of the first examples of internet shaming? She finally spoke out about just how hard it was to deal with, and the fact that she thinks we need to change our approach. We need to start talking about forgiveness. Is it possible? I think it has to be, and Alec Kuros and Katja Hildebrandt would agree. We need to start being forgiving of ourselves and of others, and start accepting that we all make mistakes on the internet. What matters is how we get past them. So, in the end, or at least the beginning, how do we deal with this? Are we alone together?